My name is Jim Edmonds. I'm Chairman of the Port of Houston Authority. And Mr. Chairman, members, I appreciate the opportunity to be here as well. And I apologize that I'll be a bit repetitive in some of my comments. But to answer, Mr. Chairman, your question, I went to each school district in Harris County as this legislation was being considered by this body. And each of the superintendents wrote letters of support for the legislation. The most impacted ISD is Galena Park. And they took the long view that this would be a job generator and it would be more warehouse construction that would eventually add more money to their tax roll than they would lose to the exemption. So I think the net gain to the districts has been positive. As you heard my colleagues say, this was passed by the voters of Texas and by this body, and we have become the fastest growing coffee exchange port in the United States. The Port Authority has a dual mission under our legislation, enabling legislation granted by the legislature under the Water Code in the 20s. Our mission is job generation and economic impact. Just as an aside, the Port of Houston Authority generates some 785,000 jobs in Texas and puts $118 billion in the economy of the state. And Houston Ship Channel Industries pay $3.9 billion annually in state and local taxes. So it is a significant part of the economic base of this city, and coffee certainly adds to that. Green coffee is really a good example of how that equation works. You've heard from my colleagues about the industry and its growth in Houston. What I'd like you to know, though, is that we continue to market the exemption, the New York Board of Trade exemption around the world. The Panama Canal, when it completes its widening and deepening in 2014, will certainly impact the amount of cargo flowing through the Port of Houston. Some 15% of our containers come through the canal. That will obviously at least double. To that end, we have begun working with large coffee producers in Asia. Vietnam and Indonesia and India are three of the top 5 largest coffee producing countries in the world. And we have begun dealing with those folks here and in their home situations and try to make sure that we can attract additional cargoes. It was also mentioned about the Liffey Board in London. We have made application to them before, but I am confident in our continuing working relationship with them that we will find success there. And the Robusto bean is a bean that is the darker, richer bean and grown in Vietnam, for example, and mostly utilized in Europe. It's used in this country as a blending bean with the Arabica bean. So I'm only here today to be supportive of these gentlemen and to tell you that the Port Authority has found this to be an excellent public-private partnership and a way to continue our mission of generating jobs and economic impact for Texas. The other thing it does for us personally is giving us a much wider variety of coffee options at the supermarket. So we have the personal benefit from that aspect of it as well.
Can you make it cheaper?
I can't give you the number, but it is a product that is certainly subject to the vagrancy of the commodities market, and there are a lot of wild swings in it. I've noticed that. Not always positive for us because of what happens to like an oil and gas swing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions, members? Anybody else wishing to testify on this particular subject? There were some letters. We'll put those in the record that you brought forward from other chambers and other individuals, and we appreciate that testimony.
Thank you, sir.